Gravel Worlds 2025 is in the books. It was my first one. I did the 75, enjoyed it quite a bit. I tested quite a bit. Take two on the Ventum GS1, this time with the Explorer Force Group. Got some bags, the aero bags from Apidura. Got a mixed set of wheels, Stillwater 50 in the back. Made a last minute pivot up front, HED Lancaster 25 deep. Both are super wide, 28 mil, not quite as beefy as the Zip Explorer at a whopping 32, bigger than most mountain bike wheels internally. But these Schwalbe, my tried and true, my faves, still measure at 45. Went with the slick RS in the back and the bitier Pro RX up front. Put on some new kicks, stepping out in the brand new S-Phyre gravel shoes. Put cleats on these things 5 a.m. this morning, which normally would be a terrible idea, but with Shimano, I know I love the fit. A pontoon tread that locks like a glove with the cleat and then allows you to have, you know, road-like stability on the pedal, and it adjusts with your cleat placement. Comes in wide, if you happen to have wide stompers like me. Was happy not to have to do any walking in these comfortable shoes, even though there are some muddy, sloppy, slippery bits on the MMR sections. Had a foot out a couple times, but didn't have to put a foot down. I'm gonna go get cleaned up, and then we'll come back. We'll talk about the bike and other bits like this new Canyon hydration pack. It's got a 2-liter Hydra pack. Went through that quite quickly, and the 2 tall bottles. This is done in conjunction with Millet. Oh, you know, apologies for butchering the name. You know, put the just in case bits in there and the other just in case bits in here. Cameras, front, rear, and chesty. I always screw something up at a race, and it's always a matter of what I've screwed up this time. Here, I got a notification on my Wahoo that my Axis battery was critically low. I was lucky enough to make it through the day with enough juice to get to the end. Came in 4th overall, just behind my man Christian Fairley of Valley of Tears Gravel, and was happy to ride with him and some of my boys from Boulder like Donnie Powell, Scott Moniger, and Jake McGee, and came in for first in Old Guys. I'm gonna go get clean up this bike. I'm gonna bounce over the finish and watch the fast men and women come in the 150 Pro race, and then we'll meet back here and dig into the details of the Ventum GS1 and all the bits. There's a courtesy bike wash as a fundraiser for Lancaster Composite Youth Cycling. Did a good job, check it out. Thanks for that, y'all. Gotta go put a tip in the tip jar. Cleaned up and back at the Airbnb. Talk about all the bits. I'll break these into chapters so you can jump around to the bits you're interested in. I'm gonna talk about the bags, what you can put in them, the aerodynamic claims, how they compare to other bikes, how they affect the handling in crosswinds. Talk about the bike, the gearing, got a 42, 10, 46. Talk about the wheels, the tires, talk about the vest, talk about the kicks. If you haven't yet seen the live coverage from Worlds, I'm staying here with a couple of the reporters who were doing it, Amanda Nauman and Yuri Hauswald. You can check that out on YouTube. I'll put a link down below. The coverage was good, and that is relevant to this, of course, because of context. That's my whole thing with testing bikes in events, is that it brings out the good, the bad, and ugly in ways that JRA, just riding along by yourself, doesn't quite do. So, with that in mind, let's kick it off with a bit of context for my event today.
And then we have Gooch Goo.
It's a bike of choice.
Your last name.
Gentlemen of taste.
Gooch Gorge, they're going to be out there as
Blacked
well.
out.
So thank you so much for all of you being here. 3, 2, 1, let's go! Wow, Gravel World 2025.
Gravel varies, right? And out here, it was looser than I expected. The start today, you know, the sun's low in your eyes and there's dust going everywhere, as happens at the start of a gravel race. I felt good about 45s. I felt good about having a shallower front, although this was a whole situation. There was just shy of 4,000 feet of elevation, 200-foot kickers at a time. That got fairly tedious by the end. I certainly did not feel like I was missing out by not doing the 150. So with that in mind, where the rubber meets the gravel road, let's talk about the rubber that was on the gravel road and the wheels that the rubber was sitting on. Got a mullet setup of head wheels, the 50 mil Stillwaters, which I've been riding around a bit in Boulder, Colorado. And then picked up yesterday the the Lancaster. Where are we now? We are in Lancaster County, in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Ben. And this one's 25 deep. A lot of people don't know there's 10,000 feet of climbing in the 150. And so this is more of a climbing wheel, a little more all-around wheel.
Also, tomorrow, the race day is calling for a bit of crosswind, and for many of us, yeah, aero can be a great thing when you're going quickly, but it also be a little nervy on loose over hard pack. So that's what I'm thinking of going Lincoln or Lancaster up front.
You know, if I were you, Ben,
yeah, what
I would do is I'd go Lancaster up front,
yeah,
25 deep,
yeah,
help you with the steering and a crosswind. Aero in the back, the Stillwater in the back, 50 deep for aero. You're a fast guy, so you know people will try and keep up with you.
Okay, that's what I'll do. That's you set the menu, chef, and I will eat this delicious meal.
Well, I'll serve it up, man. And then we still have our Emporia wheel. We have this in an alloy, so we cover all the monuments of gravel in the Midwest.
Emporia, of course, being home to none other than Unbound Gravel, the granddaddy
you know
of them all.
Ben.
Thank you, John. Appreciate you being out here. I did have an issue early on with the front Stillwater, and I also had a little bit of trepidation with side winds with the stock zip wheels that come on this GS1, in that Boulder is great for riding a lot of the times in a lot of the ways, but we get some nasty winds sometimes, and having a giant side area with the bags and the frame and then a deep wheel had me with a foot out a couple times doing some dirt road rides around. So looking at epic ride weather, as I often do in the days before a race, and I've seen a lot of big arrows. The larger the arrow, the larger the wind, calling for crosswinds all day. I thought, you know, a shallower wheel might be a little more comforting. I'm not gonna win or lose the race based on a little extra arrow up front, but you know, I certainly can lose my cool if I feel like the wheel's getting blown off. So I'm happy to report that by going shallower up front, I didn't notice this at all. So that was probably more in my head in Boulder when I was getting blown around thinking it was this, when really it was the large, or deep, I should say, front wheel affecting the steering axis. Because sure, like your body can get blown around, but it's the steering axis getting blown around that makes things squirrely. Another issue I had with the front Stillwater, depth aside, was getting the valve stem to seat properly. Ended up going over the handlebars, is the short version of the story, because I lost pressure at the end of a 4 or 5 hour end of a Think gravel. It's Friday ride in Boulder. TGIF does some great events. Did a shakeout ride here in Lancaster with Dom and the crew. Went over the bars at the end of a TGIF ride, coming down a paved road at the end of the ride because my front went flat very quickly. Couldn't figure out what the heck the cause was because there was no puncture in the tire. Got home and I thoroughly cleaned outside to inside of the tire and the inside of the wheel, put the tire back on, mounted it up. There was no puncture. I was like, what the heck is going on? How did I lose air so quickly? And I'm fairly certain it's because the nut on the valve stem worked its way out and the air came out through that hole, which was weird because I had it at the start of the ride put on quite tightly. And then when I was checking it, the nut was super loose. Similarly, with this front wheel, after telling the folks at HED about this, they cranked it down with pliers to the point where I was like, I'm not gonna be able to get this thing off, man, if I need to put in a tube. And by that evening, it was again just super loose. So I think what happened in both instances is the rim tape wasn't pressed all the way down into the channel, and that accounted for some play and air tightness in the valve stem. So all that to say, HED makes great wheels. This is not a knock against the quality of the wheel product itself, but simple things like rim tape can make or break a situation. And we often talk about doing shakeout rides before events just to literally shake things out. I wish in retrospect I had checked the humble valve stem more closely before going on big rides and flying down canyons. Which leads me to why this wee little TyreWiz thing is attached here. If you're not familiar with this TyreWiz, it is the original product made by Quark, which is now part of SRAM, to give you real-time air pressure data to your head unit. Some of my friends here were heckling me about that. Like, what are you gonna do with that data? Like, either you've got air in there or you don't. But it was reassuring to me today to be able to look down periodically. And you know, sometimes you feel like your tire's going soft for any number of reasons. And it was reassuring to be able to just look at my computer and be like, no, my pressure's at 31, right where I want it. And that was a small but helpful thing to my crazy brain, to have that reassurance that all was right in the world, or at least all was right in my tire. Another tire swap going from the slicks, my favorite Flav, Schwalbe G1 RS, now in Pro, slick down the middle, little knobs on the side, to the bitier G1 RX, which Schwalbe says rolls just about as fast as that one. And this could just be in my head, just like with the TyreWiz, but looking down and seeing a little more bite up front when we're going through corners that are a little on the loose side was reassuring to me. So all in all, I'm happier with this mullet mix of a shallower, bitier front and a deeper, slicker rear. Quick word on these big boys, since they come stock on this Ventum GS1 with the SRAM Force build. These are now the 50s for the design for zip made by Goodyear Explorer Enter. I'm happy to have a fat tire just for cush, and it feels most of the time like it rolls just as fast, maybe even faster. Your results may vary than a skinnier tire, even on pretty smooth surfaces. And I just like the extra cush. So I don't think this is a bad setup at all, but in the name of testing, I was switching up, testing some other stuff. Tire clearance is a thing, especially on muddy days like today. Ah, shit. Ah, lost the plot. Yeah, me too. Today wasn't muddy all over, but most of the road was dry, super dry, dusty gravel roads, and then there were multiple sections of MMR, minimum maintenance road, where it was muddy and greasy. Few riders came not to grief, but to a standstill because the rear got so clogged up they could no longer turn the wheels. In the pro race, they were hitting many more sections and a lot earlier in the day, and there was a lot of running and walking on the grass on the sides of the road. Did a video, if you haven't seen that, on the pro winners bikes, Matt Beers and Rosa Closer, and they had a lot more mud than I did. I had 0 tire clearance issues with the mud, was happy for that. I had multiple mud sticks, used them a couple of times, you know, as the wheels spinning to take the edges off. Simple but effective things. Let's talk about bags now. What's a good bag? Well, it depends on what you want to carry in your bag. Today I put a bag in my bag because I had a camera mount on the bag, so I just put my normal saddle bag in here with all the fixings. TPU tube, multi-tool, CO2, and a lever. And then in my hydration vest, I had tire plugs and a CO2 and a breaker. Yesterday, I was doing the shakeout ride with a hover drone that I could barely fit in here. But putting your snacks is the standard thing to put in here. Riding at home, and I'll stick a small rain jacket in there. One claim that Apidura has about this whole setup is that it effectively makes this like an aero road bike. Just saw my man Tom at Cycle News is in the wind tunnel over there in England, testing a whole bunch of aero road bikes, and they don't look exactly like this, but you'll notice that the head tube just continues way back here for just a super deep and fast cross section. And this is effectively what this guy does, and that the bag shapes around the front of the head tube, part of the down tube, with some little elastic bands to hold in place here and Velcro here. Which leads me to another piece that I think is critical about bags, just how the things attach. And the Apidura system I like because it's not clingy Velcro that will tear the insides of your shorts, or at least peel the inside of your shorts, but it's these nice little cinch down latches that are not just visually tidy, but there's just no tear little pokies to them. So thumbs up for me for this Apidura system. You can also use, you know, either bag by itself, but with these two straps, you can put the two bags on together. A couple other bags for context. A zipper pull on this guy blew out, and it's got a more shapeless form, whereas this is nice and svelte, which probably for aerodynamics, but I appreciate because it doesn't rub my knees, whereas something that can bulge out can be irritating. Your results may vary, but I appreciate this svelter design. I also appreciate a sturdy zipper that isn't going to blow out on me. The amount of space you have determines what's a good thing, right? And being able to get to your bottles is a key thing. Cecily Decker had what I thought was one of the most creative uses of Gorilla Tape in a bladder used here at Gravel World. She had a big bladder underneath the top tube, and then she Gorilla Taped it on, and then had the tube running up front. And she was like, I need to drink the bladder first because that's the only way I'm going to be able to get my bottles out. I love this about gravel. You've got elite, you know, world-class athletes literally taping stuff to their bike and just going out there and sending it. So nice work on that, Cecily. One other bag for comparison, and this style, this is Canyon's. You know, the sides are magnetic, and then there's just the quick lock that snaps into magnetized bits on the frame, and then a little pull lever to release. This is just for the Canyon Grail, pops in there, but has the same aero effect and visually clean effect as this bag. And it comes off even easier than these straps. So I'm a big fan of this design, but it just works with one. Rose, the German competitor to Canyon, or Rosa as others would say, has a similar, you know, fidlock connection for like pop on, pop off. So Apidura is not the only bag maker in the game. If you're into watt savings and a tidy look, it's a pretty good system. It's a pricey system. It's like $289 or something like that. So carrying stuff is good. This is an option. While my knees didn't hit this, occasionally they would hit the top two bags. I often get that just standing up, not necessarily sprinting, but just, you know, trying to get my carcass over rollers would occasionally just nick it there, but that was something I was happy to live with. So thus ends my TED Talk on bags. Gearing. Not Gearing, Nebraska, but gearing here in Lincoln, Nebraska. Ventum specs a 42 ring, whereas most brands spec a 40 when paired with the 1046 on the Explorer cassette. 1046 is the only cassette you can have on Explorer groups, whether that's Red or Force or Rival. This is the trade-off you get for having the UDH design with this particular configuration. Not the UDH itself, but SRAM's derailleurs, whether they're the Gravel Explorer or the Eagle MTB style. Plus side to getting rid of any adjustment, including the B tension for both the Explorer derailleurs and the Eagle mountain bike derailleurs, is there's nothing to adjust. It's just always going to be set in the same place, and that is one of the pros and one of the arguments for the UDH system. The downside is that you can only have the one cassette that it comes with. However, I find this 1046 to be a nice sweet spot of ample low, ample high, and still decently sized steps in between. Yes, you can run out of both depending on where you ride, how hard you like to go, and what your chainring is, but I found that for gravel racing and spirited gravel group riding, 42 for me is pretty good. My last video about the Ventum GS1 bike, I griped at length as to how my heel sits on top of this derailleur when it's down in the 5 smallest cogs. And I got that at Apex which is a gravel race in Colorado where there is 11,000 feet of descending in 2 big chunks. And I had my weight back, my left foot forward, my right foot back, and was hitting that quite a bit. Today, it's a different story. There was rollers, 4,000 feet of climbing or so, but there was not extended climbing. So I maybe hit my heel a couple times when back, but for the most part, I was pedaling this bicycle and not coasting this bicycle. So context is key. Out here, this was not a major issue at all. Another thing I touched on in the last GS1 video was the added compliance on this new build. You can feel it to the point where it's almost like what I think of as the Cannondale Synapse scenario, where it's so plush that I'll often look down to see if my rear tire is going flat. Rear tire was holding just fine. Just a nice cush design. How much of that's the post, how much is the frame, how much is it the skinny seat space, how much is the squishy Argo saddle? I don't know, it all works together, but the whole package is comfy. Comfy's good. Speaking of comfy, as far as integrated one-piece cockpits go, this guy's pretty good. Ventum is good for a consumer direct brand in that you can specify what size stuff you want. So this is a 42-110, which for me is perfect. I like the slight flare in the bars, and up top, while not quite as comfortable as a slightly more rounded bar for an aero shape, this guy is pretty good. And you guys, if you've watched pretty much any of my SRAM related videos recently, you've heard me rave at length about how much I love the shape of these new Explorer hoods. I think it's saxophone practicing time here in the neighborhood. Take it away, Coltrane. Another force bit that I dig is the relatively inexpensive power meter. It's just left side, but works just fine. As far as putting the pedal to the metal, pedal to the power meter, I've long been a mountain bike pedal guy, in part because I spend a lot of time on my feet at events, walking around, talking to folks like Pete Stetna. Hey Pete, those nice shoes you got there, man.
Yeah, man. Nice shoes. Yours are looking a little better than mine.
Yeah, I just wore mine one time. You look like you got some miles on those. How long have you been wearing these, the new here, the S-Phyre gravel?
So I've been on prototypes of these since early last year. Won chalk on them last year on like a plastic version, actually.
Oh, sneaky.
Yeah.
So no idea.
They just said, make sure that no one looks underneath. Like the magic's all down there.
I've been wearing the S-Phyre mountain bike shoes and they look pretty darn identical up top.
Yeah.
So that's my alibi for why I did not snap to the fact you're on the new.
Yeah.
How do you like the pontoons?
I mean, that's the magic sauce, right? Like that's that whole contact patch, especially coming from a road background, and when you're trying to evaluate like road shoe or mountain bike shoe, it just kind of does it all, so.
I was amazed today by the number of folks still on road shoes here, given the fact that there was like some running involved.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if you're talking like weight and stuff, I guess, or maybe aerodynamics, I don't know. Like, the Shimano pedal is lighter, too. So yeah, like for climbing races, and if I'm not gonna unclip, I still think about road shoes, but
sure.
Man, I mean, these things, and also like
I'm just talking about today here at Gravel Worlds.
The cool thing though with these is the stack is super similar to the road shoe. So it's like, like some people are really sensitive, like you put it on a mountain bike shoe and all of a sudden like you might have to change your seat height because you have so much more stuff under your foot.
Yeah. Now
these are much lower. They're really similar to the road shoes, so you can just like not mess with your seat height if that was a thing for you before.
Oh, nice one. Thanks for helping make the good stuff, Pete.
Yeah, man.
Good to see
love them. Yeah. They helped me run in the mud today. I was the loser in the mud, but it was not due to my pedal system.
Final bit, hydration vest. Canyon's new pack has a 2-liter Hydro Pack. Hydro Pack makes both bottles and reservoirs for all sorts of brands. Basically, you've got Camelback and Hydro Pack as the two players out there. Like with frames and tires and many things, there's the manufacturers and there's the brands, and Hydro Pack is a manufacturer. I prefer Hydro Pack to the Camelback bladders for a couple reasons. One of them is just they're a heck of a lot easier to work with, and that you can get in them easily to mix your stuff and critically to clean it out, whereas Camelback has the big knob on there. So I'm a fan of this guy. I thought this was going to be hotter than it was. It wasn't super hot today, although it was 100% humidity this morning. just with the amount of fabric on it and the fact that it's black, I thought it was gonna be toasty. Wasn't so bad. There's a weird pouch here you can put your arm through and use it as a sling if need be, or you can tuck a jacket back there, maybe an extra bottom. I'm not quite sure what to do with that. I'm a fan of the Usui pack. I feel that's the best one going because it's a minimalist thing. It's just a hydration pack, not a backpack. This has some more pouches, so it's a little more packy. You can cinch down the sides as well as adjust the 2 sternum straps. And then up front is where I put my CO2 and breaker and bacon strips that I traded with Flavia because she wanted a Dynaplug, which I also prefer, and had never used one of these before. So I was like, hey, you're out here racing 150, let's swap. So Flavia, give me my Dynaplug back. Take this one. So while not knocking Usui off the throne, I thought this was fairly comfortable, a bit of ventilation there and capable of hauling 2 liters. I'm a huge proponent of hydration packs for gravel events. Not just being able to carry extra capacity, but being able to keep both your hands on the bars and hydrate while rocks are banging everywhere and people are taking all manner of questionable line choices and you can't really see because there's dust and low angle sun in your eyes. This is a good solution. This plus 2 tall boys got me through the day in the 75. I had a good time out here in Gravel World's Lincoln, Nebraska. Appreciate many of you coming up and saying hi. Appreciate many of you having patience as I stick camera in your face. Gravel's a funky little community and I'm grateful to be a part. Thanks for watching. Thanks for the support. Come out to Gravel Worlds if you can. Make sure your tires are holding air and get out there and enjoy the ride.